I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. Ellie! But they ain't.
Please stop!
Well, hey everybody, it is me, El Topo here, and I am back with a solo podcast. My God, a solo podcast. Who does those things? I guess I do. I haven't done one of these in quite a while, but I just beat The Last of Us 2, and I have a lot of thoughts on the game, and probably more thoughts about the reaction to the game than the game itself. So this isn't going to be like a full-blown, like, beat-by-beat review. I will give you my overall thoughts on the game and that kind of thing, but it's not. I'm not going to go through like an in-depth plot summary. There will be heavy spoilers in this. I can't talk about what I want to talk about without spoiling the game, but I'm not going to go through like a point-by-point plot summary of the game. So anyway, I just want to start out by saying that I love this game. I am a huge fan of the first game. A huge fan of Naughty Dog in general. I think they've made some of my favorite games of the last, I guess, 2 console generations now. I absolutely loved the Uncharted franchise, and I love The Last of Us. My bread and butter, my favorite kind of video games are story-driven narrative games, and I don't think anybody does it any better than Naughty Dog. Maybe Rockstar would be a close second, possibly better. It's hard to say. They're definitely like 1 and 2, but that's the kind of thing that sucks me in. I mean, one of my, if not my favorite game of all time, is probably BioShock, and it's because of the story. The story sucks you in and it keeps you entertained, and then obviously it supplements with good gameplay on top of that. So I really like The Last of Us 2. I felt like this was a really worthy sequel to a great game. And, I got it at launch, and, I'm not the hardcore player that I used to be. I don't marathon things anymore. So if the game launched on, Friday, I'm not going to beat it by Sunday. I'll play it, and I'll kind of play it at my own pace, and it took me about a week to beat the game. But it's in this day and age, there's a discourse. As soon as a game comes out, there's a discourse, right? And all I kept seeing was how bad this game was. I kept seeing comparisons to like the final season of Game of Thrones and The Last Jedi. Those were the 2 biggest comparisons I kept seeing, that the writing was bad in this game and that the story, characters' motivations didn't make any sense and it was just trash. And, I as I was playing the game, I was like, well, when is this going to happen? When is the bad going to happen? And spoiler alert for me anyway, it never really happened. But I think that's where I want to start out. I think that a lot of the reaction to this game is, at best, it's people being upset that it's not the game that they thought it was going to be. And at worst, I mean, here's the thing. I hated The Last Jedi, right? I couldn't stand that movie. But I also hated the fact that a lot of other people that hated that movie for wholly different reasons than me. They hated it because of its woke, quote unquote, woke agenda and, strong female protagonists and all this other crap. That is not why I did not like The Last Jedi. I thought The Last Jedi was trash because I felt like there's a lot of problems with that movie. You can go listen to the podcast we did. We've done hours on that movie, but I don't even want to talk about it. But the reason I bring it up is the discourse around this game reminded me so much of the conversation around The Last Jedi. What I mean by that is, all I kept seeing was The Last of Us 2 sucks because, there's a meme page that I follow that I can't remember, but they literally just called it a woke fest. And that was the general tone that a lot of people were saying about this game. Like, again, like, it's, a woke fest. There's gay characters in it. There's a trans character in it for, like, a little bit towards the end of the game. Well, I guess the trans character's in it for a larger part of the game, but you don't realize that they're trans until later in the game. You play two women throughout the entire game, and the main guy from the last game is murdered by one of these women pretty much straight away in the game. And does this to me represent a woke agenda? No. I think it's it's just a new story. It's you have you have gay characters and trans characters, excuse me. You have women and gay people and trans people in the real world, so why would that not reflect your storylines in a video game? Like, it's not like there's a run on not being able to play a straight white guy in a video game, right? Like, you can go to so many other video games and do that. And I guess that'll bring me into my first big complaint that I keep seeing over and over and over again, and why people hate this game, is, again, they murder Joel. Now, I like Joel in the first game, and I think he's a good character. I really liked his arc, but I think that people have there's two things. People have a fundamental misunderstanding of Joel's character in the first game, and I don't think, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but I don't think that they understand the point of the second game. Joel, while he's our player-controlled character in the first game, and he does what he thinks is right at the end of the game by saving his basically his daughter, he's a selfish, murderous person. I mean, in the first game, he murdered people just because he wanted to. I mean, like, again, he's our guy. He's the guy we play, and we're there with him when he does that stuff. But the one of the heaviest themes of the first game was the heaviness and the just dirt of the world, and how there's a weight to murdering people. And Joel killed a lot of people, and at the end of the game you could argue that he killed people that were just trying to help, like some of the few people in the world that were just trying to help, and he did it for solely selfish reasons. Now, is his actions justified in our eyes as the player? Yeah, probably, but that doesn't mean that from the perspective of the people getting murdered, he's not the villain. And that leads us to the second game, because the person that kills Joel is Abby, who is the head doctor that Joel murdered, the doctor that was going to come up with a cure for the infection. That's Abby's father. So she goes on a path of revenge to get Joel, and she follows through with it. Now, a heavy theme of this game is that revenge really nets you nothing. Again, spoilers, obviously. Through the course of the game, you play Abby, and by the end of the game, Abby is almost dead. All of her friends are dead. She has nothing. She has her, the one person she was able to save, who's also in a very bad way. So who knows where their journey's going to go from there. But if she never followed this path of vengeance, arguably all those people would still be alive. Now, her group, the Wolves, it seemed like they were trying to say that the Wolves were on a collision course to doom anyway, due to their leader. But that's kind of besides the point. You know, again, if Abby didn't follow through with this course of vengeance, you know, her life would have been completely different. And that's one of the heaviest themes of the game. Heavy is the word of this morning, I guess. Sorry about that. Is that, you know, vengeance and revenge aren't really going to get you what you want. It's not going to get you the closure that you want. And if anything, it's just going to destroy you. And the same can be said for what happens to Ellie. You know, Ellie's journey in this game kind of reflects a lot of Joel's journey in the first game, where, you know, she initially goes after Abby. It doesn't work out. But then she gets out of that. She goes back home. She has a family life now and a home and a kid. And then she still can't let it go. And she has to make a selfish choice and leave to finish her quest for vengeance. And by the time she gets to Abby, she realizes that it's all for naught. And she, in the course of a fight with Abby at the end of the game, which I think is a brilliant scene, like the ending of this game, I think is not really the ending, but like the final battle between our two protagonists is really emotional and done really, really well. But she loses 2 of her fingers in that. So she's emotionally scarred. She's, physically scarred. And for what? You know, now she's lost her family. You know, she's lost the peace that she had and what she wanted. And for what? For nothing. Joel's not back. And, you know, now she's got to live with what she's done. And that's, you know, again, a pretty... I would say a pretty surface level interpretation of the storyline in this game. Yet I see, this brings me to my next complaint, is that next complaint that not of my own, but complaint that I see over and over and over again, where people are upset that you don't get to kill Abby at the end of the game. But you the game doesn't, like, if they gave you the option to kill Abby at the end of this game, it throws everything in the face of what the storyline was up to that point. And I don't understand, how you can play almost, I mean, the game's pretty long. I don't understand how you can take in this story for almost, 15 to 20 hours. By the time you get to that end fight with Abby, where you think killing her is the proper resolution to this story. Because, again, it's pretty obvious that it's not. And I don't know. It's like you've played all this game, but you didn't pay attention to it, or I guess you hated it so much that you didn't care. Like, I don't know. And I guess I should get into another big complaint is that you play as the murderer of Joel. For a big chunk of this game, you play as Abby. And I don't understand why people are so surprised. It kind of reminds me a little bit, I should say, of Metal Gear Solid 2, where you don't play Snake. You played Snake for, the first mission, and then you play Raiden throughout the rest of the game. Now, it's funny because that game has aged into a classic where people love it now, and, you know, a lot of people now that have probably gone back and played that game, they maybe weren't even alive when that game came out because I'm old as shit. But when that game came out, people were furious about playing Raiden. Like, it was, you know, this was really pre the internet we know now, but it was definitely a meme. You know, it was definitely, people are upset. But now people look back at that game and say it was a really bold artistic choice and it's a classic game, and it is. Because even though you got to play Raiden and you weren't playing Snake, the gameplay in that game was great. The storyline was great. Did a lot of weird shit. There's actually a lot of comparisons you could make between these two sequels, because they take a lot of risks in both cases, and they're both, I think, going to age very well. Well, I mean, obviously, one already has. But anyway, you play as Abby, and I've seen so many people complain that you play as Abby. Now, the game tells you you're going to play as Abby, like, right away, because you play as Abby, like, in the first half an hour of the game. Like, did you think that they were just going to cut to her once and you'd never cut back to her again? Like, as soon as that happened, because you're introduced to where Joel and Ellie are, they're in this town in Jackson, they've settled down, and then you're immediately shown Abby's side of the story and her team of former Fireflies that are hunting Joel, like, this happens immediately. So, on a structural basis, like, the game tells you right away, well, you're going to be playing more as Abby. The game's not going to cut to her for half a second and then never cut back to her. But people are really upset that you play the murderer of Joel. And again, I'm all over the place. Sorry. I think this goes back to the fact that I don't think people understand that Joel isn't innocent. And whether you like it or not, Abby is, in her own mind, she's justified in her actions. Joel is a murderer that killed her father and a bunch of other people that were just trying to help humanity. Like, it's just a matter of perspective. That's the entire point of this game. And it's that's why the perspective switches. And I don't think people understand that. And it's like, it's funny because I saw some critique that I didn't understand at all, where they're like, this game simplifies everything to good and bad. And it's just like, well, no, it doesn't. Like, that's the point. There is no good and bad. Everything is shades of gray. To Abby and her group, Joel and Ellie are just two murderous, rampaging lunatics. Whereas to, the people that we'd known and loved from the first game, the wolves are just as bad. And that goes further into the game too, whereas when you start rooting through Seattle and you find notes, you find out that the wolves, the group that Abby's aligned with, that was formed after the Fireflies, the wolves came in as liberators from Fedra, but then they also became corrupted and became, like fascistic. Did I use that word correctly? Murderers to a lot of people. And they're not like the good group. They're also full of rot, and they're bad at places. Isaac, their leader, is morally questionable, to say the least. He's obsessed with killing the Seraphites at this religious cult that you come across. And the Seraphites are also painted with gray strokes, because when you befriend two of them as Abby later on in the game, you find out that, their teacher, the prophet that they follow, her words have been corrupted by members of the group, and now the group has become violent, but it didn't start that way. But, there was a truce between the wolves and the Seraphites. And my point is that it's not black and white. It seems like the entire world is painted in a big gray, broad brushstroke, which is, drama, conflict is the essence of all drama, right? So that is the confliction in this game, is that there is not a blanket morality. It's everyone's kind of just trying to survive, and morality is a sliding scale. Anyway, getting back to Abby, I mean, people hate this character, and, I hate to say it, but the comments and the memes and the GIFs, I think a lot of the hate towards Abby is because she doesn't look like Lara Croft. They've made her a very bulky, she looks like kind of like a bodybuilder type. And I think because, neckbeards don't want to fuck her, she's just a shitty character. Like, I wonder if they made her, the game has a lot of flashbacks, kind of to its detriment, to be honest. It's one of the aspects of the game I think they could have tightened up a little bit. The game has a lot of flashbacks, and one of the flashbacks with Abby, she doesn't look very dissimilar to Ellie. She's a lot smaller, she's younger, and I think one of the things visually that they're trying to show you is after her father dies, she becomes completely consumed with being a soldier and a weapon of violence. Her friends even say the same thing later on in the game, that she's just a violent force, so her becoming bulky, becoming more, adept to killing things, like it's another character beat. Like, it's a visual character beat without, having to spell it out. But again, she doesn't look like Lara Croft. She's not like hot and sexy. So people, I don't know, like people attack the way this video game character looks and they're upset by it. And, you know, I'd like to think better of people, that they're just like, well, I don't like her character. But then, well, what don't you like about her character? And it's either she's beefy or she killed Joel. And again, as I've already discussed, that these character, you know, again, you can find fault in writing. I don't have a problem with that. But like, if you hate Abby because she killed Joel and you can't understand what motivated her to do that, I don't understand how you take in any media. Like, how do you process anything with any kind of complexity? I mean, it's not even that complex. You know, this is still pretty surface level stuff. But yeah, the hate piled on this character is kind of ridiculous to me. And you know, I saw it compared to, it would be like in the first half of a World War II game, you're playing the Allies, and the second half, you're playing Hitler. And it's just like, I mean, just right there shows the complete lack of understanding between, you know, a black and white morality and a gray morality. And again, the game is making you reconcile with her perspective, and it's like, it's so weird to me that people play it and they're like, well, I still don't like her. And it's like, well, why? Like, what is it, you know? And I have a hard time understanding that. Still keeping on Joel, and because I swear, I think that the majority of the hate thrown at this game, because I haven't mentioned it, but this game got like epically review bombed, and I mean it to a point that's just absurd. You know what I mean? You can hate this game all you want, but if you like the first game and you played this game and you hated the storyline, the gameplay in this game is basically a better version of the last game. So even if you hated the story completely, that's still like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's not a 0. You know, this game it didn't take the gameplay of the first game and replace it with like Bubsy 3D. You know what I mean? Anyway, but getting back to it, I think that the majority of this hate is because of how Joel is treated in this game. And or I shouldn't say how he's treated in this game, how he's perceived to be treated in this game. Because this brings me to another complaint that I've seen, where they're like, Ellie hates Joel irrationally in this game, and it's not fair to Joel because Ellie, you know, Joel gave up everything for Ellie, and he you know, he made the ultimate sacrifice. And I hate to say it, but yet again, this is misreading the text that's in front of you. The split between Joel and Ellie happens because, you know, Ellie finds out the truth about what happened in the hospital, and she feels betrayed because she feels like she could have by ending her own life, she could have put an end to basically all human suffering. And she, like, it fucks her up. And I can understand that. It's literally the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you could have fixed it, but that agency was taken away from you by somebody else. Now, the game shows you that she's grappling with this, and she's upset. But there's a scene, and they show it right at the end of the game, where Ellie is trying to make amends with Joel, and that she wants to learn to forgive him. And it's an emotional scene, and it's really well written. And I think that what the game is trying to show you is that Ellie, part of the drive that is within Ellie to get the revenge, is Joel left this earth with her without having proper resolution. They left mad at each other, and it wears at her. A movie that used this same kind of beat to great effect is 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. I think I said that right. Where Frances McDormand's daughter and her, the last thing they said to each other was like really hateful and mean, and then the daughter is murdered. So it adds a level to their grief because, you know, you don't want to, you know, the last I was always told, I don't know, this is a anecdotal thing, but I was always told that if you have somebody that you love, you should always tell them that you love them as the last thing you say to them, because that you never know what could happen. And it's overly emotional, I guess, but I can understand its purpose. And so in this case, you have Ellie, who the last time that she was with Joel, you know, they were fighting, and she was genuinely upset, but they never got closure for that. So that's pretty powerful, right? And I think that it's something that maybe has gone completely over people's heads. Like, why is Ellie upset with him? It's like, well, she should be upset because what Joel did was a selfish act. And really, if you think about it, you know, it's something where obviously, like, in Joel's mind, he did the right thing, but is it the right thing? You know, it's the whole, you know, the cost of the few to save the many argument, right? And I mean, obviously, that is not a black and white, he did it right, he did it wrong thing. It's a gray area. But imagine being somebody that could have been responsible for saving the entire world, and then that was taken away from you. That would make anyone upset. Coupled with the fact that Ellie is very young, and she's dealing with, you know, her lifestyle choice in a town that doesn't accept her, because they get into that a little bit. And I mean, you can understand why she would get into a fight with her father. I mean, everyone gets into fights with their parents, especially when they're younger. And it's like, how is this not obvious? Like, I don't understand the version of this game that people want. And I say people, I mean some people, obviously, because it's funny, because after the initial wave of just hatred I see for this game, now it seems like things have calmed down a little bit and people are discussing the game and not just these moments about the game. Because the other thing I should bring up is this game got leaked like a couple of weeks ago. Somebody leaked like the major story plot points, and people are like mad at that. Like, I think to a fair extent, people are mad. They read these leaks and then they just assume the game is bad because they just go by what these, like, well, Joel dies and this happens and this, but like you don't view it in any kind of context. So it's just like, well, this is bad. This is bad. Like, I didn't read the leaks. I didn't really care about the leaks. Like, I don't understand how that affects my opinion of a game. Another thing I keep seeing is that the director of this game is like a dick. And again, like, I don't care. You know, I don't give a shit. Like, I like Lars von Trier, but he's a fucking annoying asshole. What does that make it? Does that make me like Dancer in the Dark less? No. Like, why does that matter? It's this weird, like, thing where the meta is more important than the game. And it's like you get, like, internet points for hating the right people. Like for in a video game context, like, I love the Borderlands series, but Randy Pitchford's a fucking asshole. But, like, I still like Borderlands. Like, it doesn't affect my love of those games. I don't know. It's really weird, I guess. And I mean, like, the hatred for this game is just so strange. And I guess, you know, through my rambling about this, I guess I do understand it. I think it really boils down to people are mad that you killed Joel, and then, you know, then all the other stuff comes after that, right? Like, I have to play a butchy woman, and I don't like that. And then there's gay characters. So this is about, you know, this is about your liberal agenda and your woke agenda. It's all just window dressing for your dumb hatred. And I don't get it. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I don't know. What do I know? Not much, right? And I guess that's about it. I mean, I'll say that I love this game. I plan on replaying it and then replaying the first one over again just to see how that feels. I think that you could, you know, the game is not without its faults. I feel like the game does get a little repetitive towards the end. They introduce a faction at the end, like the very end of the game, where it's just like, did you need to do that? Like, there's already 2 factions in this game, and then to throw a third one at you is kind of a lot. Though I do appreciate that the fact that the third the third faction that you come across is, I don't know if this is, it's implied to me that they're police, because they're all wearing police gear. Either that or they've raided the police. But I thought that was kind of fun. But this game's great, right? Like, if you like the first game, there's no reason to not like this game. And again, even if you hated the storyline, like, it's still the gameplay is great. It's still the same great survival gameplay that you liked in the first game. There's great horror elements in this game. The mood and atmosphere and the graphics are fantastic. It's not a 0 out of 0 game. And, you know, there's probably more I forgot to touch on, because I don't write anything down. I just kind of riff. And I'm sure that, you know, there's probably plot points that I should have brought up that people are upset about. But overall, I mean, I really enjoyed this game. I don't understand its overwhelming hatred. And I think it's just kind of sad. I mean, I remember maybe the second day I started playing this game, you know, there was a thread, one of the game groups that I'm in, and the meme was about the review bombing, and they were making fun of it. And then somebody in the thread was like, "This game's really good," and they're like, "Well, you must think that because you're gay." And it's just like, what fucking year is this? Like, it's 2020 and we're still doing "you're gay." Like, come on, man. Like, what? Who cares? Like, I don't know. Go play The Last of Us 2. Thank you for listening to my half an hour of rambling. Good God. Listen to Movie the Podcast. Listen to everything on, listen to the Inept Supervillains. Listen to everything on Mulehole Radio. I may put this on YouTube. I don't know. I never really used the YouTube channel. But anyway, yeah, if you want to talk more about this game or any other games, you want to hear me rant about other video games, just let me know. And you know, go eat your own ass. Bye-bye.